Howdy. Last Friday, I went to my consultants group meeting. I belong to a group called the Professional Consultants Association of Central New York. And our topic was business prospecting, and it was led by a lady named Sandy Stefano of Sandler Training. That's just the name of it. It used to be called something else, and I knew the guy who owned it then, and well, now he's in his 80s, so he sold it off, and now they're just called Sandler Training. And she was telling how basically her biggest thing is she's always prospecting. She's always prospecting. Now, they do sales training and they do a lot of that. But she said that it's interesting in her business because every year they lose about 35% of their clientele. And then they need to build that up by prospecting. And she says she does this all the time. And the best way she does this is by the phones. Now, I don't like the phones. I'll just tell you that right now. I'm not really big on the phone. I don't mind having a conversation with someone I know or if I've set something up. But in general, when calls come in and they're kind of cold calls, I don't pick them up if I don't know the phone number. I've learned that over the years working from home. I get tons of calls from all sorts of folks. Folks who don't really want to work with me. These are sales calls of some type, of things that I'm not even close to interested in. I get a lot of that, and I get a lot of calls asking for money for other things. So I just don't answer the phone. So at the end of this meeting, or just near the end of the meeting, one of the other consultants was saying, look, you got to pick up the phone and you got to make the calls to these people, and you just kind of have to hammer them in a way. You have to get out there and you have to, really work to get new clients. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, well, wait a minute. This guy is in basically my profession. We're both kind of in healthcare, and he works mainly with physicians groups, whereas I work with hospitals. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, wait a minute. This guy was an administrator at a local hospital. He was actually in administration. He's the perfect guy for me to ask this particular question. So when the meeting ended, I went to him. I said, George, I've known you all these years. I've never thought to ask you this particular question. Back in the day, when you were vice president of blankety blank hospital, y'all don't need to know what hospital. I said, when you were back as vice president, how did people get through to you on the phone? He says, oh, they never did. I never answered the phone. I said, well, wait a minute. You just basically said that people need to hammer the phones to get clientele and to get through. You didn't answer the phone. This is one of the things that is my complaint, is that a lot of people in administrative positions or director positions, which I used to be, don't answer the phone, don't return phone calls unless we know someone. So how would you now suggest that I get through to some of the people I'm trying to reach when you know you didn't answer the phone? You know why you didn't answer the phone. You know directors don't answer the phone. What would you do? And he gave me this bit of advice. He said, you're starting too high. You're never going to get to anyone in the C-suite unless you know them personally. You're never going to get to certain directors unless you know them personally. What you have to do is you have to find another way around. In essence, you have to find maybe someone who works in, and since I'm in revenue cycle, he says, you have to find someone who works in billing. Or you find someone who maybe works in registration and you have a conversation with them. And you just talk to them and they're going to tell you what their problems are because everyone has some kind of problems. And so you, in the course of that conversation, can give them an idea of ways that maybe they can change some things up. Now, they may not have the authority to really change it, but if you tell them certain things, they're going to say, well, hey, that sounds good, especially if you believe in yourself and you know what you're talking about. And you have them become your advocate. So then they go back and say, I was talking to this guy, Mitch Mitchell, and he said such and such, and it sounds like a good idea. And if they communicate it right, someone else may say, well, hey, that may be a good idea. Maybe we should try to get him in. And then you let them bump it up the line. And I thought about that and I said, well, I'm not so sure. It sounds good, but see, what he does is he calls physicians all the time and he goes out to lunch with these guys and then they get to talking about this practice and that practice and what the hospital's doing or whatever. And then he is able to convince them to maybe go and talk to someone. But I'm talking to people who really don't have that kind of authority. I'd almost have to find someone at the level who I'm already trying to reach. Or so I think. You know, one of the biggest issues when you're self-employed, and yes, this is a business video today. It's not leadership and it's not healthcare. It's a business uh, presentation. And really the thing is that you have to kind of be strong and you have to be consistent with your prospecting. I have to own up to this. I'm not really consistent on it. I am one of those people who will get a series of letters and I will send out the letters. And then I will follow up with some kind of phone call maybe a couple weeks later, which might be too long. Maybe it should be a week. I never get to talk to anybody except every once in a while a secretary. Sometimes I get to leave a voicemail, but I never get to talk to anybody. And then I don't try again. Because one, I'm by myself, it takes a long time to print out the letters. Believe it or not, it does take a long time to print out the letters and sign all the letters and fold them up and put them all in envelopes and lick them all and stamp them all. That does take some time. And it takes time to make the phone calls because you want to make sure you're calling the right person. You have to put this all together. I could use a virtual assistant. It's something I'm thinking about. But because of the time it takes and because of the audience I'm trying to reach, you sometimes get into that loop or that mindset where it just seems like, well, I'm not getting anywhere. But I go back to Sandy. Sandy said that she has been known to call a prospect 16 to 20 times. However, she always leaves a message. If she can't talk to someone, she leaves a message that says, look, I'm going to call you again. I'm going to keep calling you until you let me know you don't want to hear from me. And if she gets through and she talks to someone who doesn't, she'll say, look, I don't know if you want this business all the time. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call you periodically. I'm not going to call you all the time. But I'm going to call you every 6 to 9 months unless you totally don't want to hear from me. Because I believe what I have would be beneficial for your business. And you can tell me at any time, stop calling and I will take you off my list. And she said almost no one ever takes her off the list because that's how she presents things. It's interesting. I'm working on getting into a mindset of trying that. I think that what I need to do is reduce the number of people who I'm trying to reach, especially because some of them are in other states. I have a big list. You know, there's almost 6,000 hospitals in this country. But it says that you have to kind of find your message, get your message out there any way possible, and kind of be a bulldog. I've never been that type of bulldog. I'm bulldog on a lot of things, but not on that type of thing. But I'm going to work on it. So that's my advice today is sometimes you just have to be a bulldog at things, especially when you have difficulty getting through. You have to take the opportunity, especially if you're sole proprietor like I am, where your money is based on getting through to some of these people. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you bulldog your way through? Do you try a couple of times and you give up? Or do you have someone else doing it? Which would really be my preference, but hey, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, my name is Mitch Mitchell. I hope you liked the video. I hope you subscribe. I hope you click that little thing so you get notifications when there's new videos. I'm gonna keep putting them out there. I'm bulldog about the videos at least. You guys take care. Have a wonderful week.